Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Darwin FPV BabyApe III Mini 2. This is a 2-inch prop, a 2S quad, and 2-inch 2S is one of my favorites. This is another analog quad from Darwin FPV where their goal is budget minded as well as not just the bind and fly, but also the parts that you would need be a little less expensive than you might find otherwise. The flight controller is the Darwin FPV F411. It's a 15 amp Express LRS equipped all-in-one flight controller, but as you can see there, I do have that 1 watt or 1.2 watt VTX for the analog system that I have here. On this one, they also inserted a bit of plastic down here that protects any dew or wetness that could potentially get onto the flight controller to short it out. But our USB port, our micro USB port, is right there. Motors are Darwin FPV branded. They are the Bling 1103 12,000 kV motors. And on those motors are Gemfan 2023 tri-bladed props. The camera is the Caddx Ant. It does have a capacitor, but I'm not quite able to read what that says. Maybe through the viewfinder. It looks like maybe a 270 microfarad capacitor. Not sure about that though. Our battery connection is an XT30. There are 2 battery pads that are mounted to the side plates, and your battery does need to fit in there, and I've got 3 options that I will present in this video. But I do recommend go ahead and using a strap right through there if you have the space. While this is analog, it does come without an 04 or with the 04. It also comes with Walk Snail Avatar. It weighs 64 3/4 grams. I flew it on these 3 different batteries. You can see here the Darwin FPV branded 500 milliamp 2S battery is a little bit different. It does not have a battery lead, which does make it pretty clean in this particular setup. With the Darwin FPV battery, it weighs 94.11 grams. With the Beta FPV 550, it weighs 94.16 grams. And with the G&B 550, it weighs 93.45 grams. Bottom carbon fiber plate is a little over 3 millimeters thick. Top plate looks like it's 1 millimeter thick. Side plates are 1.5 millimeters thick. Yeah, on both sides. Distance between the battery pads is 17.5 millimeters. If you take out the battery pads, you get about 20 millimeters. And motor post to motor post, I'm getting just about 97 millimeters. Comes with a safe flying guidelines card in 2 languages and some promotional material about Darwin FPV. In the accessory bag comes with 2 little circular stickers. We have 3 extra rubber bands. We've got various screws that we'd use for motor mounting as well as mounting the carbon plates. And last but not least, it comes with 1 sheet of stickers. It only comes with 1 set of props, so pick up extras if you don't have more on hand already. We're gonna jump right into my more freestyle, typical sort of preferred flight style, but I can report if you fly more exploratory or flat sort of cruisy style that on the stock battery, which is the Darwin FPV battery that does not have the balance lead, you're getting about 4 minutes and 15 seconds of flight time, just in that particular style. On the Lava 550, I got about 15 seconds on average across several different Lava 550 batteries, but I only have the one Darwin FPV battery to test, so there could be a variable there. And with the G&B, I got about the same as the Darwin FPV at 4 minutes and 15 seconds of exploratory flight. Of course, in this flight style where we're punching and hitting the throttle and we're weaving in and out of stuff, we're going to get less flight time, but it'll be apparent at the end of the video. You'll get to see the flight time that we have. Some of you may be wondering, yeah, the yard did get cleaned up, but we won't see that this year in a video yet. The yard just got cleaned up yesterday, and this was, well, as I record this yesterday, and this flight was a few days prior to that. Usually takes me a day after I've kind of satisfied my amount of flying that I like to do, especially weather permitting and light permitting. But I wanted to get this out before the end of the year, so I don't have flight footage from the clean yard, although I did fly this when the yard was clean. I just didn't have time to put flight footage together because I do have a secondary recording that I use for flight audio. And 2-inch 2S is always a lot of fun for me. I have for years enjoyed 2-inch 2S. It fits the backyard flight style. It's light, it's agile. You can still punch open over stuff. You can still get a fair amount of float, as you can see from a lot of the typical moves that I do here, that it doesn't fall out of the sky like a rock like you might see in other quads that are smaller propped and just are lower weight. They still have a little bit of weight there to work with. Again, but the downside of going smaller and smaller and smaller is always the wind that it will tolerate. In this particular case, my winds were around 12 miles an hour, and you may be able to pick up some of those winds on my flight audio recording as it blows the few leaves that are still on the trees around, as well as the leaves that are sitting all over the backyard. But like I said, they're not there anymore. Thankfully, it got cleaned up. You may have seen it in my thumbnail that the yard got cleaned up. on a different video actually that I just released. So if you want to see that cleaner yard, look for the thumbnail. If I used that particular picture, I really can't remember. But it flies fine. I don't see any deficiency when it comes to the PID tune. 2-inch 2S usually is quite durable. I didn't have any breakages. I didn't really have anything to complain about other than the battery strap really needs to be in the box. Now you can see our flight did end 2 minutes and 36 seconds, but I could have got a bit longer. I did not nail my ending voltage where I like to get 3.5 volts per cell, and it's popped up now at above 3.6 volts per cell. So the flight time, I probably could have gone another 10 to maybe even 12 seconds, depending upon what I might do. So Darwin FPV has kind of gone with this motif. We saw it on the last video that I had on Darwin FPV, the BabyApe 3, where they have kind of reinforced arms. And that's good, especially when it comes to durability. So you have a little extra carbon fiber that protects the arms from getting hit, and then they snap off. They have a little bit of extra carbon fiber that will help make them more robust when it comes to taking impacts. Oddly enough, the FootPads, when you go to order, if you choose to order, I will link it down in the video description. The FootPads are extra. So maybe if you've got a printer and you have some design, you can just do that yourself, maybe. As in the last video, I think a cheap and easy and enjoyable upgrade is to change the camera. If you just want to fly this around for a time and then you want to go out and get a Caddx Baby Ratel 2, it should slide right in and be a direct replacement. This camera is also made by Caddx, so the pinout on the camera connector should be the same, so it should be a really easy swap. And that's a nice camera. I like that analog camera. That's one of my favorites. Especially when you go to 2-inch where you have, or larger props, you have a little bit more thrust, so you can add the additional weight. The ant is going to be about 1.5 grams is my recollection. It might be as much as 2 grams less than the Caddx Baby Ratel 2. But that Baby Ratel 2, if you're not familiar with it, it's a nice little camera. As I said, I recommend a strap, and I think Darwin FPV should include a strap. They didn't design it for a strap, obviously, because you have the carbon cutouts that are there to hook your rubber band. But I experienced on the BabyApe 3 a battery ejection. I did not in this particular case, so it could be safe. I'd still, if you have a battery strap on hand, and if you get the version where you can thread your battery strap between the top plate where the battery goes and your VTX, I would go ahead and do that. It's going to add, again, a couple more grams, but I think it's worth it, especially in battery ejection scenarios. As far as the battery goes, let me take my rubber band off. The stock battery makes things real nice and clean, as I showed in the BabyApe 3. I think we slide it in sideways so we get the label in and we shove it up in here, and it fits real nice and neat. Obviously designed for this battery and this print. And then with the battery lead length, we just plug it in and it keeps our battery leads out of the way. Now with other non-Darwin FPV batteries, we still have the option of using them, as I said and I reported in the flight time. Just like with that one, I kind of what I do with my balance lead is I put it between the two wires because it holds pretty well, and then I just kind of slide my battery up there as I can, and then we take our rubber band, how I flew it. You can, in this case, I didn't do it exactly like I flew it. Let me take it apart and I'll do it exactly like I flew it. So I thread the battery lead between the carbon fiber and the battery, and then I line things up and we plug it in, and then we take our rubber band and we just run it. Oh, I just broke it. So, for the purpose of this video, normally you would take the rubber band and just loop it across, and it holds everything nicely in place. In the case where you have the battery lead on opposite sides, I just kind of do this one on here. I do this a lot on a lot of different quads, but then we put it in here and we shove it as far forward as we can, and we do the same thing. We take our battery lead, we put it between the battery and, well, geez, there we go, I got it. And then we plug in, and with a non-broken rubber band, we run it across the top. That's how I flew it. I did fly it without a battery strap. I just recommend the battery strap, especially if you are a little bit like me, maybe risk averse. It is going to add a little bit of weight, so you will have a little bit less agility and performance, but it'll be pretty negligible on this particular prop size. As far as the construction goes, they use posts here and here to secure the two side plates, and you can get access to pretty much everything. Oh, there's also another post down here, I believe. Nope. No, that's not a post down there. So like I said, the posts are right here, just below the battery plate or the top plate. And then you would take the screws out, and then you can slide, after you remove the camera screw, you remove a side plate, and then the other side should be free. You might have to remove your props in order to do that. I didn't need to get in there, but we've got a fair bit of clearance between the side plate and the props. If you kind of turn the props, excuse me, I had that kind of high, you could then slide this out. You should be able to get it beyond anything that's connecting it down to the bottom plate. Slide that off and then remove it so you can get direct access. When it comes to repairs, they are soldered motors, so you won't be able to use motor connectors, but they are kind of exposed. So with a needle nose or a tweezers and a fine tipped soldering iron, you will be able to make motor replacements probably without removing any of the screws and the plates. So the repairs should be relatively easy. In this particular print for the camera, you can see we've got two positions that are available to move the camera forward and back for more camera protection. On this particular mount, with the camera mounted in the forward position, you can see that the camera lens does stick out just a touch from the print. So anything we might hit directly in this area could damage the lens. You could move that back. I did not, but if you move that back, you might start to see edges of the canopy come into your view when you're in the goggles. So something to consider, but it's still nice that we do have an option. By myself, I would prefer an option where there was just one slide piece that you could scoot it, back and forth. The upside of having two definite pieces is your camera doesn't end up, cockeyed in there because you've just got the two holes rather than a slide cut out in the sides to where your camera might get a little bit, cockeyed one way or another. So that does clean things up, but it also limits how much movement you can get when it comes to adding some camera protection for your maybe new Caddx Baby Retail 2 if you were to put one in here. They did use my favorite motor wire tape to secure the motor wires down to the frame. So I obviously approve of that. Without the feet, if you go without the feet, do note you're going to be coming down on these screws. So if you tend to land in a sliding fashion, I tend to hover and then disarm and just kind of plop down. But some people come in kind of sliding. Maybe it's just a fun thing you like to do on a nice smooth parking lot or something. Go sliding across it. If you don't have the feet, you're going to be sliding across all these screws. So after a few flights or every flight, I would look at those screws to make sure you haven't worn too much of the head off and that you can still get a good bite on the screw head in order to unscrew those to make repairs. Otherwise, if they rub all the way down, that is a much more difficult time getting that screw out. So just something to keep in mind. Or just add some foam bits. If you have some foam bits, you can even buy those little rubber cabinet bumpers. I don't know how well they stick. I just know because past projects I've done, they have these little round cabinet bumpers. You could probably buy some of those from your local hardware store and put these either out on the arm or out here on the frame to just raise things up just above the screws. I'm not vouching for how well they'll stay, but that is a kind of DIY solution if you don't have a printer and you don't want to buy the feet. I mentioned it in my BabyApe video as far as the 1.2 watt VTX. I can't verify it's actually outputting that, even though I was flying at that. Of course, you need to obey your local laws when it comes to that sort of thing and any sort of licensing you might need or anything like that. I don't have a tester to actually prove that that is actually outputting 1.2 watts and how long it might be outputting 1.2 watts. When things heat up, they tend to come back down in power level. But if you like to explore at more of a distance, in theory, that 1.2 watt should help you get to where you want to go for the most part. There's going to be limits to that are very, very much a big variable, environmental for one, where, how, your antenna setup, things of that nature. But as far as price point goes, this analog version, pretty much like I have here without the feet, about $157. And then when you add the 04 Lite, as we've been calling it, it goes up to $278. So the price range really varies. But again, they have a listing for all the repair parts right there on the website. Matter of fact, I think you can buy extra parts at the same time you're buying the bind and fly, save you a little bit on shipping if you want to pursue that. If you are interested in the BabyApe III Mini 2, I will link it down in the video description and you can check it out, or you can just type in BabyApe III Mini 2 into your favorite search engine and go find it from any vendor that you might be able to find it from and that you want to investigate further. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the BabyApe Mini 3 2, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching. This is probably my last video for 2025, and I just wanted to thank everybody who's come by the channel. And I know that not everybody will see this, but I don't really like the idea of just posting a video that's specifically saying, you know, bye-bye 2025, happy 2026. I hope you all enjoy the holidays. So I thought I would just throw it in here, and those that maybe watch to the end of the video would see it. But I do appreciate everybody who comes by the channel. So hopefully 2026 is a more prosperous and enjoyable year for all of us in FPV and real life and in our work life and our family lives, all the other lives that we tend to live and experience. And I just wanted to thank everybody who's come by the channel, who's left a comment. Even if you haven't left a comment, I still appreciate everybody who comes by. I'm still surprised after all this time, more than 10 years now, that this old guy is still doing this stuff. My kids now are so grown, and they were little tiny kids when I first got started on YouTube. But it's been a fun experience, and I hope to be able to continue. And I wish you all the best now, today, as well as in the future.